Welcome to the Imagineering Education Podcast. This is Thomas Riddle. Thanks for joining us for conversations held at the crossroads of education and design, with a healthy dose of inspiration from Disney's Imagineers. Each week, we feature pertinent commentary on relevant issues and informative interviews with leaders and practitioners from the fields of education, design, entertainment, and more. On this episode, we'll continue our exploration of topics related to leadership and legacy with my good friend, Jeff Jenkins. Jeff is the principal of Ralph Chandler Middle School in Simpsonville, South Carolina, and he's a veteran educator with a passion for bringing innovation into the classrooms and also experience in connecting the community to classrooms. He's also the president-elect of the South Carolina Association of Middle-Level Educators. Jeff, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be back here with you, Thomas.
So last week we talked a good bit about leadership, and today we're going to jump right back into that conversation and also talk about the impact of legacies. So I've heard you also talk a lot about teachers and teachers as leaders. You know, that's something that the Walt Disney Company, as an organization, really puts a lot of emphasis on their cast members. Now, I think if you're listening to this podcast and you know anything about Disney, you may know that at parks, their employee or worker is not called a worker or an employee, you're a cast member, because the idea is that you're part of a show. You walk in a Disney theme park, an experience or a show, and everyone has a role to play. So every worker, be they somebody in food service to someone who is helping you get on the haunted mansion carriage, they are a cast member. So in Disney's business model, they believe strongly in cultivating excellence in their cast members, which leads to satisfaction among their guests. And this provides greater business results. Leadership is vitally important, but the cast member is the key to success. In the Disney business model, they believe strongly in cultivating excellence in their cast members, which leads to greater satisfaction among their guests. And this provides, of course, greater business results. Leadership is vitally important to the process, but the cast member is the key to success. They are the frontline person. It's the cast member that's having the most frequent engagements with the guests, with the visitors. And if you translate that to schools, the cast members would be a teacher.
That's right.
Disney looks for excellent qualities in their cast members and provides extensive training for them. What do you think are the qualities of an effective classroom teacher?
You know, directly, we talk about relationships, and again, don't want to come across as providing lip service to kind of a safe answer, but you know, we're looking for specific things in our interview process. I mean, it starts there. We're looking for people who, I guess to put it in kind of three kind of in a soundbite, it's, you know, you love kids, you work hard, embrace change. Is really what we're looking for. We're looking for the ability to kind of create rapport, that you can. We want people who can, as I said earlier, who can understand. It doesn't matter what keys to which car we give you. You know, the work that you can be about. It doesn't matter if you're in the Cadillac or driving the bus. You know, if you're teaching social studies, you're teaching science. It's about building relationships, making a difference in the life of a child. You know, and providing them experiences. You know, so if I'm an English teacher, those experiences are going to look a certain kind of way. If I'm in a social studies classroom, they're going to look a certain kind of way. And we look for that in the people that we bring into the organization, that they're going to fit the culture that we've worked intentionally to create. You mentioned this is probably where maybe I confess to you. I don't know if you knew this or not, but I worked for Disney for a period of time.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. So was pretty good friends with Buzz Lightyear. And one of the other roles I had was driving one of the floats in the parades. So I've spent some time in that orbit, and I remember vividly onboarding, working for them. You know, we spent, my recollection is it was a full day. I can't remember if it was multiple days, but I know it was at least a full day, 8 hours in their traditions class. You know, where they taught us about Walt Disney, and they taught us about, you know, nobody no cast member is above picking up, you know, the trash. You know, when our zone that we're assigned in the park might be one area, but if it takes us walking somebody to the other side of the park to make sure they're delivered where they want to be, like, that's wraparound service. And so that's what we provide in our school. We have a letter that's getting ready to go out to some of our new cast members to jump on that. I just finished writing that letter this week, actually, and and quoted in that letter is providing wraparound services for teachers. Quoted in that letter is that we believe that the teacher is the most important person besides the students in that building, and that anybody that's not a teacher in the classroom is there to support the teaching that's going on in that classroom. So we're working every day to try to make those values and beliefs, a reality. And we certainly are not above our own growth. It's still needed, but that's what we're about. We're going to give you every tool we can give you. Again, going back to your Simon Sinek quote, book, I can remember in the opening of that book, he has that wonderful story about the pilots given the cloud cover for the guys on the ground, and I feel like that's what the support people in the building are supposed to be doing, is providing that cloud cover so that our educators that are boots on the ground in the classroom can innovate, can be creative, can provide those high quality experiences and build those deep relationships with students. So we talk about these things in our interview process, and often when I'm getting ready to make that move to bring someone on board, we have this conversation and say, I need you to really sleep on this, because, in this era of education, teachers have options. They're interviewing more than one place.
Right.
And I tell them, look, this is where you want to be. We're going to work hard. We hustle. We put in that extra mile. But it's because of that why. It's because of those experiences for kids and the passion we have for that relationship. So we want to make sure that they know what they're getting themselves into, and that they're on board for it. And the way they answer our question set, all the way to having that real direct conversation that this is kind of who we are, what we're about, what we expect, from everyone, is all out there for people to kind of know what they're walking into. And, I have found that people are more passionate when they know that that's what they're coming to, because I think most educators are coming into this business for that reason, to provide high quality experiences for kids and to build relationships. So I think it ignites some energy as they're entering our organization, in that way.
I think that would be really good advice for any young teachers looking for jobs, or any veteran teachers, just as a solid reminder. Know your why.
Yeah.
And be committed.
That's right.
Ask yourself, are you committed to this organization's policies? And if you can't agree with that organization, perhaps you need to go somewhere else. And that could be for your benefit, that's not trying to sound, if you can't get with the show, do something else. Right. But ask yourself, is this really a mission in this school, in this organization? It could be business as well. We're talking about schools here, though, but is this a mission I can get behind? Because if it is, then it goes back to kind of like your training in Disney. Then you're, as Dabo Sweeney would say, all in, right?
That's right.
That you are all in.
Yeah.
You have your own life, of course, but you can. I think there's a lot to be said for the satisfaction, job satisfaction, personal satisfaction, if you are lockstep with something you can really get behind.
That's right.
So I think it's important that I'm glad you guys asked that of your teachers. Is this something that you can support? Because I think it's because if you can get the organization on the same page, you're going to create experiences for those kids, for those parents. You're going to have a school in which there's going to be great satisfaction.
That's right. Yeah, it's like the job is a thing you do, the career is something you're passionate about, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're looking for, is the people that can really understand that Disney talks about their members, their employees being cast members. I often refer to folks in our building as professional educators, because it's what they are.
Right.
They're professionals.
Right.
This isn't a professional environment.
Amen. That's something that needs to be shouted from the mountaintops. These are professionals.
That's correct.
Treat them as professionals. So while we're talking about Disney, and You snuck that one in on me,
I
man.
did sneak that one in on you.
Wow, that was. You need to be doing this, not me. Are
No
you
way,
kidding?
man. I spent
wow.
a year, so I understand certain things, but I don't know it the way you know it.
Oh no. You have the experience here, the boots on the ground, as you say. So let's stay with this for a minute, and let me give you the fairy godmother's wand from Cinderella. All right, so you have the magic wand, and you can change anything about education right now. What would it be? I know it's a tough one.
It is a tough one. I think there's a number of things that I would want to change, but I think maybe keeping in the spirit of thinking about our conversation about innovation and how do we unlock that. I wish that we could go after some of those things that are kind of the minefields that the potholes on the runway that just delay liftoff or derail liftoff for our professional educators. Testing is one of the first things that comes to my mind. The obsession with that. That's how we measure it all. And I look at a lot of there's a lot of clerical work that goes into the day in the life of a professional educator, that if there was a way we could just lift some of those extra things that they have to do. It feels like we're in such a culture right now of it's not what I do, but what I can prove that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. From the testing piece to portfolio pieces. I'm certainly not suggesting that there shouldn't be accountability. There absolutely needs to be accountability. I always talk about, we deal in children and lives, not boxes of cereal, right? So there has to be accountability. But I feel like we have gone, as education is wont to do, on such a pendulum ride to this accountability side of, I've got to show you documentation of everything what I do. If it's not written, it didn't happen, and I feel like that sometimes can be laborious to that incubator time of what real innovation looks like. Good ideas don't happen by eureka moments. They're iterative. They happen over a period of time. They're a series of conversations and thoughts that eventually they snap and they come together. There's a great TED Talk, Stephen Johnson, I think is his name, Where Do Good Ideas Come From?
That's a good one, yeah.
And that has always resonated with me as, this doesn't happen, I think in his talk he shares the story about Darwin's theory of evolution is described as this moment of brilliance, but if you look back at his writings, the ideas were all there. They were there for a long time. It just took some time to put that puzzle all together and for it to be conscious thought. And so I worry that when we want our teachers to be innovative, and they can be really creative, and sometimes the time suck that they have to endure doesn't put them in a creative space. Doesn't give them the that time to let it all percolate and be part of those conversations. So if I could change that's what I would change is how can we identify those things that can clear the headspace.
Gotcha.
Get rid of the clutter.
Yeah, that's good. So we've talked a lot about leadership, going in and out of these conversations. And one thing that good leaders do is they leave strong legacies. Now, there's no doubt that Walt Disney left an amazing legacy. And I've heard it said that your legacy will be read later, but it's being written now. So the things that you're doing now as a leader are impacting your legacy. With that in mind, what would you like for your legacy to be? When you walk away from this all, what would you hope you've left behind?
That's a heavy one, Thomas. I don't know that I think about my work in that way. I worked hard for kids, I think is, I'm trying to think of like the tagline, the soundbite that would be blasted, but that I think for me, that's what I hustled for kids. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and keeps me up late at night. It's, I want to serve, and I want to have been a good servant to the people in the building, to the students that are in the building. I think about I'm trying to remember the author and book title, but he talks about the wake of your work and what's in that wake when you run through an organization, when you run through a building, when you run through a community, and you're out the other end, right? There's a wake that's left behind you, and what's in it. And so I guess I think about it in maybe those terms, is that I'm trying to, I am acutely aware that I'm a steward. I'm steering a ship right now that is going to have multiple captains, many captains over its lifetime. And my job is to keep it, steady as she goes. Make an impact, where we need to, and try to make a difference. More than making an impact, it's about making a difference. Yeah, I don't know. This goes back to, I guess, the beginning of our conversation. With me, it's always been an iterative process. I've not said I'm going to do a thing. I want to be here. I want to reach this part of the mountaintop.
Right.
I've worked my way through to where I am by, doing what I love doing in the moment that I was in, and it led to something else. I remember, another of those mentors in my path that always said, you're interviewing for the next job by how well you're doing the job you're doing right now. This is your first interview by doing what you do right now well. And I suppose that's in some ways kind of connected to this idea of what you leave behind, what your legacy is. It's, so the next thing is, when it's all done and I hang that principal coat up, for the last time, what is that? I just hope that I did the job well, the job that I was supposed to do well.
Yeah, I kind of maybe asked an unfair question, because I don't know how many of us actually think about that. How important it is for us to consider in the present what we're doing that's going to impact the future. And I know that's something that I don't spend enough time thinking about. I think I do somewhat more so as a parent.
Yeah.
What do I want? What kind of legacy do I want to leave for my kids? When I was in the classroom and when I was a principal, and even as a college professor, I tell all the students I've ever taught, hey, once I teach you, you're my kid. And so you can't get away from that,
Tribe.
You're part of it. And it's great that my kids are now my biological kids are in their 20s. My student kids are in their mid-30s to some late 30s.
Yeah.
But I think if we're teachers and we're parents, or if we're business people and we're parents, or I think it's easy for parents to think about, hey, what legacy do I want to leave? But I think that it's equally important for us to think about especially in a profession in which we deal with kids, with children. What kind of legacy am I leaving behind for them? What kind of legacy am I leaving behind for the teachers that I work with? And if I'm in leadership, as a building level administrator, as a principal, district level administrator, superintendent, what is my legacy? What do I want it to look like? And then what can I do to make that happen?
Yeah, and I was thinking this, it's actually probably not an unfair question. It's probably a question that needs to be asked more often. We always talk about, you begin with the ending in mind.
That's right.
All the time.
That's right.
And so maybe we ought to give more thought to what's the wake of the work, what's the legacy, because the work you're going to do, like you said, is going to shape that now. So
right.
Maybe we ought to think about that a little more often.
I think so.
Not from an arrogance standpoint,
right?
Or I love me some me kind of thing.
Right.
It's not that. It's more about, it's a visionary kind of way of thinking. I think if I want to end here, this is the goal.
I think that's good what you just hit on, that you said, as teachers, since Covey, right? Begin with the end in mind. Right. So why would we not think about that with legacy?
That's true.
We often look at legacy and say, oh, that's what was, we only look at someone's legacy after it's over, or after that time, that career, that life, or whatever is over. But I think it's vitally important that we start planning for it now. So let's begin with the end in mind.
And there's Thomas still mentoring me. That's our homework, all you listeners out there.
We only promise you conversation here. We don't always have answers. We don't always have pithy remarks. We don't always have the catchphrases, but we will have conversation. And sometimes we'll have a lot of insight, and sometimes we'll leave thinking, wow, I do have some homework to do. And I think this is a great homework assignment for anyone listening, and for you and I as well.
That's right.
You know, actually, I just heard that our pastor just taught on that Sunday about legacy. And so in preparing the show notes for today, it kind of came up and doing some reading on Disney, and actually in the Leadership Excellence material from the Disney Institute, going back over that and the connection between leadership and legacy. So I think our homework is to plan what do we want our legacy to be.
It's an interesting thing because you ask the question, and my immediate thinking is, it feels selfish to talk about my legacy as if I'm important enough for people to even want to remember me when I'm gone, you know, as opposed to being like, oh, I'm glad he's out of here, get me the next, you know, you kind of, it starts off with that thinking, but the more we talk now, you lead with the end in mind all the time. We plan for end of life.
That's right.
We write a will. We don't want to leave a burden for people that have to manage things behind us. And so, I think that knowing how you want it to end will influence your attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors in the moment.
Right. Are the things that I'm doing making a difference in anyone's life?
That's right.
And will it make a difference in anyone's life when everything's said and done?
That's right.
So that's good. Well, man, we could keep talking forever. We have a lot of other questions I could have come to, but we are out of time. I think we can come back around to this another time, especially since I now know that you worked for Disney. Absolutely. You were hiding that one from me.
That was my ace.
Oh man, that was an ace up the sleeve. You just dropped that down, and I was defeated. I was like, wow, didn't know that. But that's great. But Jeff, if people wanted to follow you on or keep up with your work, I know you're on social media some. I know you're active on Twitter. What's the best way for people to follow your work?
Twitter is @JenkinsTiger. Go Tigers. Follow the work of SCAMLE here in the state of South Carolina. As I continue.
What's that website?
It is scamle.org.
Okay.
We're across the state trying to carry forth, these kinds of conversations we're having today. And of course, always happy to collaborate and share what's happening in our building, and connect you with the people in my building that are doing those innovative things. There's some amazing things happening in that school that I'm super proud of, and it's all through the vision and leadership of the teachers in the building. So would be more than happy to connect with anybody, professionally in that environment as well. We often go visit and welcome visitors into the school to see things in action. We like to see it as a learning lab.
That's great. So Jeff, again, thanks for joining me, and thank you for listening to today's show. If you'd like to learn more about our work at Imagineering Education, including our workshops, webinars, speaking engagements, and more, visit our website at www.imagineeringedu.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ImagineeringEd and Facebook at Imagineering Education. We hope you'll also subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Podcasts. When you do, don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, remember, there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow just a day away. Be blessed, everyone.